I'm here with the Dew-E DL from Kona, which might be right up your alley if you're looking for a commuter e-bike that still lets you feel like you're in control of the ride. So what's the big secret here? Let's take a ride and find out. Welcome back, I am John with Electric Bike Report, and today we're going to talk all about the Kona Dew-E DL's specs, its real-world performance, and just how it feels to ride. But before we get started, please make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos. We release new reviews a couple times every week with the goal of helping you find the best bike for you. So the main thing that helps the Dew-E DL feel like a non-electric bike is the high-end Shimano Steps mid-drive motor. This motor has 250 watts of nominal output and up to 60 Newton meters of torque, so it's pretty reserved, and it's also tuned so that it's really smooth and subtle. I found that it could give me a big boost in speed, but the resistance on the pedals didn't change much, so it felt like I was riding a regular bike, but I had way more payoff for the effort I was putting in. This bike has a lot in common with lightweight city bikes, even though its frame is a little beefier to hold the removable 36-volt 504 watt-hour battery. The bike weighs a grand total of 43 pounds, which gives it fast acceleration and great maneuverability, but that also makes it more portable. So if you live in a third-floor apartment or you want to be able to throw your bike on a vehicle rack, the Dew-E DL is pretty easy to lift. Another thing that stood out to me in my testing was the set of tires here. These are 650B by 47mm Horizon road tires from WTB, and they make the bike feel really stable when cornering and braking, and they were also wide enough to help absorb some vibrations from the road, which made a big difference with the rigid frame. Moving on with the rest of the specs, there are a few different trim levels with the Dew-E, and the DL here is the deluxe version. There are a ton of premium parts on this version of the bike. Almost everything is either made by Shimano or Kona. Shimano, of course, makes the motor and battery, but they also make the wheel hubs, the crank arms, the 10-speed Dior drivetrain, which includes a 38-tooth chainring and an 11 to 46-tooth cassette, and finally, the hydraulic disc brake system that includes 2 piston calipers with 160mm rotors. The list of Kona components includes the Rove Verso full carbon fork, the 690mm low-rise handlebars, the rubber key grips, the commuter seat post, the control stem, and a handful of other parts. The saddle is the Volt model from WTB. There are metal fenders included, along with an integrated LED headlight and tail light. And then up in the cockpit, the small control panel is on the left handlebar, and the rapid fire trigger shifter is on the right, along with the small black and white display. The bike also has its main on and off button on the top tube. There are 4 frame sizes with 3 colors, including satin metallic mauve, the matte midnight that we have here, and my personal favorite, which is gloss metallic green. The bike is not currently UL certified, but we hope that Shimano will pursue certification in the future. But otherwise, that wraps up everything on the spec sheet. Let's go see how the Dew-E DL performed in our testing. So the Dew-E DL is a Class 1 e-bike with pedal assist up to 20 miles per hour, and we brought the bike up to that limit to measure the performance of the Shimano hydraulic disc brakes in our brake test. We measured the distance it took the bike to stop after applying the brakes. We repeated the process 3 times and then used that data to calculate an average stopping distance of 20 feet 11 inches. This is a relatively average result for the commuter category. Bikes of this type tend to do pretty well here. In the big picture though, anything around the 20 or 21 foot mark is a great result, and we're really happy with the Dew-E's performance. From a personal standpoint, I could tell these were solid brakes even before seeing the numbers from our test. They felt strong and controlled without being too powerful, and the bike's 47mm wide tires helped it to feel really stable. So overall, the Dew-E gets a solid A in this test. Let's take the Dew-E DL out for a speed test on our local bike paths. We can see how fast the bike can go in each of its pedal assist settings with a consistent level of effort, and then we'll meet back here to go over the results. All right, we are here on the Kona Dew-E DL for a speed test, and going here with the pedal assist system turned off, and about a mile/hour difference or so between the bike's display and the app, but we will go by the bike's display. So kind of riding between 13.5 and 14 miles per hour on average with just my own pedal power here. Let's kick up to eco mode and see what happens. So this bike does have a mid-drive motor with a torque sensor, so I'll keep my level of effort consistent here. But first thing I notice is that motor is super quiet. I mean, I don't know if you can even hear that. I can barely hear it, but gave me about a mile/hour difference here. So I'm going between 14.5 and 15 miles per hour. 14.7 by the bike's display, which, yeah, that's about 1 mile/hour difference. Let's go up to normal mode. So there's only 3 PAS settings here, which I really like. It makes it really easy to figure out which level of power is right for you, and definitely made a bigger difference here. I'm going around 17.5 miles per hour here, kind of between 17 and 17.5. And let's go up to high mode, which is the final setting. And boy, I mean, again, still super quiet motor, very smooth level of power. It really almost doesn't feel like I'm on an e-bike. I mean, it feels like I'm just going up to this speed with my own pedal power. It is easier, but just the experience overall is the same. And we are going, got about another 2 mile/hour gain, kind of going between 19 and 19.5 miles per hour here. So I think 19.5 has been the max. So, all right, we will call that our speed test on the Dew-E DL. Back to the studio. So with no help from the motor, I was able to get moving pretty easily up to 13.8 miles per hour, and that's really just a side effect of the lightweight frame. With that in mind, you don't have to worry if your battery dies. You'll still be able to pedal this bike without a problem. There are 3 pedal assist settings with the Shimano drive system. There's eco, normal, and high modes. I got a pretty subtle boost in eco that raised my speed to 14.7 miles per hour, and then normal mode made a much bigger difference where I hit 17.4, and then high mode increased my speed to 19.5 miles per hour, but I still felt like I was riding a bike. That was definitely a big takeaway from this test. I felt like I was doing all the work, but I was moving at speeds I'd never be able to hit on my own. When we put our data from this test in a graph, there's a linear pattern that shows up, which indicates that the power is really well distributed between settings, and that lines up with my experience. I thought that there was a noticeable difference between eco, normal, and high modes, and the amount of power I felt in each setting just generally made sense. So bottom line, the Dew-E DL gets another solid A in this test. We tested the Dew-E DL 2 separate times for our range test. We rode the bike in eco mode and high mode until the battery gave out to get a high and low end bracket of the mileage you can expect from a single charge. In high mode, we were on the bike for a little over 3 hours and covered 44.4 miles, and in eco mode, we covered an even 67 miles over the course of 5.5 hours. Both of those results are totally practical, and actually those high mode results are some of the best we've seen from the max assist portion of this test. I attribute that to a more reserved level of output than some of the other 250 watt mid-drives we've tested, which tracks with how much the Dew-E felt like an analog bike. That would also mean lower draw on the battery and overall better efficiency. We see some evidence of that when it comes to our range estimates as well. We figured we'd travel around 29 miles over the course of 2 hours based on the motor and battery specs. Our actual results showed well over a 50% increase for both distance and time. I think there's a good chance you'll be able to get a couple days of back and forth out of the battery if you're using the Dew-E for commuting, and I think this is a good time to highlight another detail I haven't covered yet. The carbon fork includes 4 bosses on each side to carry bottle cages or storage bags, so between those and the results of our range test, this bike is also well suited to touring adventures and bike packing. So again, I think the Dew-E DL gets an A, which makes it 3 for 3. Our tester Justin performed the Dew-E DL's hill test at the infamous Hellhole Trail, so I'm gonna pass you over so you can see how the bike did. I'll see you back here in a few minutes to go over the results.
Okay, out here at Hellhole with the Kona Dew-E DL, and that has the Shimano E6100 mid-drive 250 watt motor. I believe it's 65 Newton meters of torque. And so I'm curious to see how this does. On our range test, it was pretty quick, even on the low assist level. But Hellhole is really where I kind of test this battery, right? Like, I'm trying not to push too hard. I could obviously go faster if I wanted to. But I want to try to keep consistent input on the mid-drives. And so far this feels pretty good. I got down about 7-ish miles per hour through that steep section. The motor is incredibly quiet. It's actually surprising. I'm gonna let you listen to the motor here and through this next segment. I'd say that E6100 motor is very nice and quiet. You can hear it, but it's definitely settling in the background. Has decent power. You don't have to be superhuman to climb this hill like you would otherwise. I would say it's not like, it's quieter than like some of the Bosch motors. We'll have to see how the test results come in, because it feels pretty good power wise too. It's not going to be as powerful as like the EP8, I don't think, the Shimano has, but feels very smooth, controlled, responsive, and overall really good hill climbing capabilities.
As you can see, Justin had a pretty easy time of getting to the top without being too out of breath. His trip from start to finish was 1 minute and 47 seconds, and his average speed was 10.1 miles per hour. So by the numbers, the Dew-E was a little behind some of the other commuters with 250 watt mid-drives that we've reviewed, but only by a handful of seconds, and in fact that makes sense with its specs. The Shimano mid-drive puts out a max of 60 Newton meters of torque, which is a little under the 70 to 85 Newton meters we've seen elsewhere. Again, this likely helps with that super analog feel, and it's something I think a lot of traditional cyclists will appreciate. I've tried pedaling up Hellhole without a motor, and it's not something I ever want to do again. The Dew-E DL's motor has enough power to make that climb comfortable and enjoyable, even if it's not the fastest. So I think in this case, I'll still give the bike an A- overall. Let's go out one more time on the Dew-E DL to give you a better sense of what it's like to ride. We'll talk about its fit, its fork, its tires, and its motor, and then we can wrap everything up back here. All right, we are back on the Dew-E DL to talk about its ride quality. This is a sort of hybrid city commuter touring e-bike from Kona with a little bit of a forward lean to the riding position here. Not too aggressive though. This bike fits riders from 5 foot all the way up to 6'5" with 4 frame sizes. There's a small, a medium, a large, and an extra large. I'm on the large right now, which fits me really well. Honestly, feels great. There are really just a couple points of adjustment with the seat post and the rails on the saddle, so you can adjust your saddle height or tune your reach a little bit. But for anything major, you're going to want to look at probably swapping out the stem or adding spacers to it to adjust your handlebar height or reach there. The bike does not have any sort of suspension. there's a carbon fiber fork up front, a rigid fork, that does kind of help to absorb some bumps though. So that in combination with the 650B by 47 millimeter tires, honestly, pretty comfortable ride. You get good stability from those tires as well. They are road tires, so really low rolling resistance, makes for fast acceleration, but also, again, a little bit of cushion there. And then the motor is the Shimano E6100 steps motor. It is a 250 watt mid-drive with a torque sensor. So that, responds to your level of effort, but also delivers a pretty constant, steady flow of output. So it feels really smooth, relatively subtle, but still gets you up to speed nice and fast. So that should cover it here. Let's bounce back to the studio and talk a little bit more. All right, I want to point out first that there was a bit of a rattle there, which was just my phone in the phone mount, so nothing to worry about. In terms of fit, the Dew-E's small frame fits riders from 5 foot up to 5'7". The medium goes from 5'2" to 6 foot. The large ranges from 5'9" to 6'2", and the extra large fits those between 5'11" and 6'5". I might personally swap out the grips for ergonomic rubber, but otherwise I've found the large frame here to be a very comfortable fit. We had just a few minor, but still valid points of critique for the Dew-E. First, we were glad to see the integrated headlight and tail light, but since this bike is likely gonna be on the road near cars and other cyclists, we challenged Kona to include functioning brake lights on the next version of the bike. And also, since this is a commuter, we'd like to see an included cargo rack, or at least the option to add one when purchasing the bike. Otherwise, Justin mentioned this in his hill test, but we were all really impressed by how quiet the Dew-E's motor was. If that's a concern to you, I think you'll have a tough time finding something that makes less noise. One other cool thing about the motor is that it has 2 different programming profiles that you can access through Shimano's eTube app. Once you get the bike paired, you can select between the sportive and comfort settings, which have slightly different levels of output. We did all of our testing in the higher powered sportive mode, which is how the bike ships. I think the big thing to keep in mind here is that this is a bike for those who enjoy cycling and who want to feel like they're firmly in control of the ride. The motor here is definitely capable, but it won't do all of the work for you. If that is your jam, then I think you'll agree with me that the Dew-E's ride quality is top-notch. We've come full circle with the Dew-E DL, and I think it's pretty clear that this bike is made to appeal to a certain type of rider, and I think it totally nails what it's trying to do for that audience. Sure, there's a little bit of room for improvement, but that's always going to be the case with every e-bike. Looking back at the Dew-E's specs and quality components, I think you get really solid value for the MSRP of about $4,000, and then looking back at our test results, the bike did a really solid job. It has a great distribution of power with 3 easy-to-use levels of assist. It can go upwards of 65 miles on a single charge. It has impressive stopping power, and it can make some seriously difficult hills a whole lot easier to climb. So maybe you're looking for a fun way to get in a good workout, or maybe you're getting a little older and you need to give your legs a break. Either way, I think you'll be happy with what the Dew-E can do, and if you want to take a closer look, we'll leave a link down in the video description to Kona's website. Please use that link if you found this review helpful, as it helps to support us at no additional cost to you. And if you like reading all the nitty-gritty details, you can check out our written review through the other link that'll take you over to electricbikereport.com. Please also let us know if you have any questions down in the comments section, but thanks for taking a ride with me today. Again, my name is John with EBR, and this is the Kona Dew-E DL.